Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Hope your first day back went well. Um, I hope it's going well with the live lessons. We'll get through this week and then I will be back next week. But I'm excited to keep reading Wishtree. We read 7 chapters yesterday. We're getting to know Red, the oak tree. We're getting to learn about who's living in the tree. We're getting to learn more about the location of what's going on to kind of paint that picture so that we can hold on to that setting and the characters and that background knowledge to help us as the story progresses. So I'm going to keep reading with chapter 8. I have one more community member, although visitor is probably a better way to describe Samar. In January, she moved with her parents into one of the houses I shade, a tiny blue house with a sagging porch and a tidy garden. She is perhaps 10 years old or so, with weary eyes and a shy smile. Samar has the look of someone who has seen too much, someone who wants the world to quiet itself. Soon after moving in, Samar began sneaking into the yard once her parents had fallen asleep. Even on the coldest nights, she'd trudge outside in her red boots and green jacket. Her breath was a frosty veil. She would stare at the moon and at me, and sometimes at the little green house next door where a boy who looks to be about her age lives. As it grew warmer, Samar would venture out in her pajamas and robe and sit beneath me on an old blanket splattered with moonlight. Her silence was so complete, her gentleness so apparent that the residents would crawl from their nests to thistle down the dandelion fluff to join her. They seemed to accept her as one of their own. Bongo especially loved Samar. She would flit to her shoulder and settle there. Sometimes she would say hello in a fine imitation of Samar's voice. Often Bongo gave Samar little gifts that she found during her daily flights. A Monopoly token, the car, a gold hair ribbon, a cap from a root beer bottle. Bongo keeps a stash of odds and ends in one of her swallow hollows, which the possums kindly tolerate. You never know who I might need to bribe, she likes to say. But her gifts to Samar weren't bribes. They were just Bongo's way of saying, I'm glad we're friends. And there's some of Bongo's little treasures. If this were a fairy tale, I would tell you there was something magical about Samar. That she cast a spell on the animals, perhaps. Animals don't just leave their nests and burrows willingly. They are afraid of people, and with good reason. But this isn't a fairy tale, and there was no spell. Animals compete for resources, just like humans. They eat one another, they fight for dominance. Nature is not always pretty or fair or kind. But sometimes surprises happen. And Samar, every spring night, reminded me there is beauty and stillness and grace and acceptance, and that you're never too old to be surprised. I was pleased to see Samar's family join the neighborhood. It had been a long while since we'd had any newcomers, but I knew that with time they would put down roots, just like so many other families from so many other places. I knew a thing or two about roots. One night, not long ago, Samar came out to visit. It was 2 a.m, late even for her. She had been crying. Her cheeks were damp. She leaned against me, and her tears felt like hot rain. In her hand was a small piece of cloth, pink with little dots. Something was written on it. A wish, the first wish I'd seen in months. I wasn't surprised she knew about the Wishtree tradition. I'm kind of a local celebrity. Samar reached up, gently pulled down my lowest branch, and tied the fabric in a loose knot. I wish, she whispered, for a friend. She glanced over at the greenhouse. Behind an upstairs curtain, a shadow moved, and with that, Samar vanished back into the little blue house. Think about stuff that you might wish for. You might wish for material things. You want money or toys or a longer vacation or to go to somewhere. Just to wish for a friend, it makes me very sad. I wonder why people don't want to be your friend. I think the chapter before gives us enough knowledge to know she's a kind person. She's a gentle person. I think they did that on purpose so that we don't automatically think she doesn't have friends because she's not someone you could get along with. Her family moved in their neighborhood. She talked about how she looks like she's kind of older than she is in the way that she's seen a lot. So I'm wondering where they were before. It just makes me kind of wonder why no one's liking her if she's so kind. When you stand still for over 2 centuries while the world whirls past, things happen. Century is 100 years, so 2 centuries, 200 years old. Mostly by far and away, good things have been my lot in life. My leaves have cooled picnickers and posers. Beneath my boughs have been made, hearts mended. Nappers have napped, dreamers have dreamed. I've watched ascents attempted, listening to stories spun. But the laughter, always and forever laughter. But sometimes things happen that aren't so good. When they occur, I've learned that there's not much you can do except stand tall and reach deep. I have, for example, been hacked at, carved into, and used for target practice. I have been underwatered, overpruned, fertilized, and fussed over, ignored and neglected. I have been struck by lightning, battered by sleet. I have been threatened by axes, chainsaws, diseases, and insects. I have tolerated the sharp claws of squirrels and the nagging pokes of woodpeckers. I have been climbed by cats and marked by dogs. I have my aches and pains like everyone else. Last year, I had a mite infestation that drove me nuts. Leaf blisters, sooty mold, oak wilt, leaf scorch. Been there, done that. Still, trees are luckier than people in one way. Only 1% of a fully grown tree is actually alive at any one time. That's interesting. I need to read that again. Only 1% of a fully grown tree is actually alive at any one time. I'm intrigued by that. Most of me is made of wood cells that are no longer living. In many ways, that makes me tougher than you. So yes, I've seen a lot, and who knows? I may see much more. I could live to be 300, 500, even. It happens. Red oaks lead long lives, longer than our daintier friends, black willows, permissioners, apples, redbuds. And yet, a few days after Samar's tearful wish, something happened that made me wonder if I'd finally witnessed too much. I love Catherine Applegate. I love how she ends every chapter with this thought that makes you go like, oh, and you want to either read more or think more about it. Okay. The morning was budding, and I was waiting for warmth. Down the street, a lanky boy was lingering near a stop sign. Head down, he was hunched over like a windblown weed. In his right hand was something shiny, a tool, maybe, or a pen. He was smiling just a bit as if he told himself a joke only he perhaps understood. All day long I see people lost in thought, talking to themselves, grinning, frowning. He was nothing out of the ordinary. I was in the midst of a conversation with Bongo, who had just pointed out to me that I was a year older, 216 rings old to be precise. Another sprout day, I said. I still feel like a sapling. You don't look a day over 150, Bongo replied. Best looking tree on the block. I'm really, I paused for comic effect, getting up there. Bongo, who was perched on my lowest branch, sighed. A crow sighs unmistakable, like a groan from a tiny, cranky old man. Tree humor, I explained, just in case Bongo had missed it. Although, of course, she hadn't. Bongo misses nothing. Because, I'm so tall. Really, Red? Bongo stretched, admiring her luscious blue-black wings. That's the best you got for me this morning? Maybe you'd appreciate my joke more if you weren't so sensitive about your stature, I teased. Corvids don't give a flying tail feather about height, Bongo said. Smarts, trickery, cunning, that's what counts in our neck of the woods. Corvids is a fancy name for birds like crows, ravens, jays, and magpies. Bongo says she's too classy for a label as common as crow. A soft wind tickled my branches. Spring, that old rascal, was teasing us the promise of warmer days. The truth is, I said, it doesn't matter what size you are, Bongo. We grow as we must grow, as our seeds decided long ago. Red, way too early in the morning for the wise old tree routine. Bongo gave me a gentle peck. Although you're right, it doesn't matter how tall you are. In a fluttery blur, she sailed to a telephone pole far above my leafy canopy. Not when you can fly, pal. At almost the same moment, Samar and the boy who lived in the greenhouse, Stephen, stepped onto their porches. Both had backpacks. Both looked eager to greet the day. Their eyes met. Stephen nodded just a flicker, and Samar nodded back. Not a hello exactly, but an acknowledgement. Stephen ran off towards the elementary school down the street, but Samar hesitated. Hello, she called softly. Right on cue, Bongo replied, hello, as she did every morning, sounding just like Samar. Bongo can also do a passable tuba, an impressive chihuahua, and a fine police siren. Samar looked up at Bongo, grinned, and headed towards school. With that, Bongo let loose a hoarse and gleeful caw and set off to wait for children to arrive at school. She was a regular there. Everybody knew her. She enjoyed annoying the children, and they enjoyed letting her annoy them. Bongo especially liked to untie shoelaces. While the children were busy retying them, she would snatch treats from their lunchbox. Every now and then, she would even make a polite request. She could say, chip, please, no way, and you rock, when it served her purpose. Watching Bongo soar, I considered, not for the first time, my rambling roots. What would it be like to fly, to burrow, to swim, to gallop? Delightful? No doubt. Sheer joy? And yet, I wouldn't trade a single rootlet for any of it. It is a great gift indeed to love who you are. Ooh, there she goes again with those little life lessons at the end of her chapters. It's a great gift indeed to love who you are. Fully agree with that. By this time, the lanky boy had walked past me, swiveled, and returned. Glancing over his shoulder, he stepped onto the brown lawn that blanketed my roots. The air changed, quivering the way it had when people are near with chemicals, with pulse heat, with humanness. Weather change, right? It's getting chilly. And then it happened. He dug into my trunk with the object in his hand, fast, deliberate. Again he checked his surroundings. An elderly woman crossing the street smiled at him and shook her head. She was probably thinking, how sweet, I bet he's carving a heart with initials in it. Oh, to be young and in love. People are under the impression that trees don't mind being carved into, especially if hearts are involved. For the record, we mind. I've never seen the boy before. He was big, maybe a high schooler. It's hard to know with people. With a tree, I can sense to the month, sometimes even the day, its age. I couldn't tell what he was carving, of course, but I could tell from the determined way he moved that it was meant to hurt. Not me. Somehow I sensed it was meant to hurt. It wasn't meant to hurt me. I was just the canvas for the message. That said, it's not exactly a picnic getting hacked into bits. Bark is my skin, my protection from the world. Any wound makes it harder to fight off disease and insects. I wanted to yell, stop, to say something, anything, but of course I didn't. It's not our way. Trees are meant to listen, to observe, to endure. He was gone quickly. He stood back, admired his work, gave a little nod, and left. And as he walked away, I saw the tool clutched in his fist, a little screwdriver with a yellow handle, thin as a twig, bright as a meadowlark. To have a screwdriver on you randomly seems like, I don't know, it seems like you were set out with it. Like you didn't leave the house going, oh, there's a screwdriver in my pocket. I think I have enough time to do one more chapter. Bongo was the first to see what happened. She landed at the base of my trunk, head cocked, dropping the potato chip in her beak. She cried, I leave you alone for a few minutes, and look what happened. What on earth? It seemed someone mistook me for a pumpkin, I said. When she didn't smile, I added, because, I was carved. For the millionth time read, explaining doesn't make things any funnier. Bongo flew to my lowest scaffold branch, one of my big primary limbs. She examined my injury. Does it hurt? Not the way an injury might hurt you. Trees are different that way. I gotta do something, Bongo said. There's nothing to be done. You might get a major boo-boo. I want to help. You're the old wise tree. Tell me what to do. Really, Bongo? Time heals all wounds. Bongo hates it when I am a philosopher. She rolls her eyes. At least I think she did. It's hard to tell with crows. Their eyes are like morning blackberries, dark and dewy. I just hope my bark isn't ruined, I said. That's my favorite side. It's not ruined, just decorated, like those tattoos on people. Bongo nudged me with her beak. Show me who did this. I'll get him. I'll squawk at his window in the middle of the night. I'll dive bomb him and yank out some hair. She flapped her wings. No, better yet, I'll make a deposit on his head. I'll make a deposit on his head every day for a year. I didn't ask what kind of deposit. I was quite sure I knew. Bongo, dear, I said, that won't be necessary. Bongo shifted from foot to foot, something she did when she was working out a problem. You know, she said, it's almost time for wishing day. Maybe this is some kind of wish, just a poorly delivered one. Another wishing day, I repeated. It seemed like you've just had one. Had a whole year already come and gone? Days have a way of slipping past like raindrops in a river. One more round, Bongo said, of greedy people bugging you with their needs. One more round of hopeful people wishing for better things, I corrected. They're different perspectives, that pessimistic and optimistic point of view. Bongo's like, these people are just begging for things. They're greedy. And Red's like, no, they have wishes. They're hopeful. Wishing day was always a bit hard on me and on my residents. Usually the animals and birds stayed away that day to avoid curious hands and endless photographs. But it was just one day. I understood its history and my role in it, and I knew people were full of longings. A mother tugging a toddler along the sidewalk froze in place when she saw my trunk. Mommy, what does that say? Asked her little girl, who was clutching a stuffed toy dog by its head. The mother didn't answer. Mommy. They crossed the lawn. The mother stepped close to me. It says leave, she finally said. Like trees have leaves? Getting the mother traced by cuts with her index finger. Maybe, she answered. Maybe like that. She looked over at the two houses near me. Shaking her head, she tightened her grip on the little girl's hand. Let's hope that's all it means. So now we need to start thinking about who that message is for. And that message wasn't done as a wish or a hope in a politeful, innocent way. That's almost like a threat. We know Samar's family just moved in. Thinking Samar's family is of a different nationality background because they just moved into the States, and that they their name's a little different than what like some people might be used to, and maybe some friends aren't accepting of that. So we're going to stop there, and I'm going to keep reading. And I love that I get to keep reading, and you will keep reading with me on Thursday because tomorrow is Wednesday and early dismissal for you. And we'll see kind of how this little not accident, but action kind of takes on a whole like town and kind of throws it upside down. So we will read more on Thursday. Have a great night. I gotta stop. Bye.